Assalamu alaikum. You are studying course Electronic Commerce and I am your instructor Saadat Nisar. If you recall, we were discussing the position styles in our previous lecture and I mentioned that we can keep the values of this property, position property, as relative or absolute, and I showed you an example for each, making it clear for you to understand the difference. When we do position absolute, there is a certain effect, and when we keep position relative, there is a different impact. Today, with the help of an example, I want to illustrate that when we keep the value of position property as static, then what happens? So, look at this slide. As you can see, we start with the clothes section, the words clothes section, they appear at the top, and then the regular text, we must believe in luck, for how else can we explain the success of those we don't like. And then there is a paragraph tag in the code, therefore there would be a line break and a line space, and then appears a sentence which is, this is an example of position styles. And underneath you can see 4 different words: music section, toys section, and book section. In fact, this is the same example you have already seen, but now I just wanted to clarify the difference. When we keep the value of position as static, what happens? Let's have a look at the code. On the screen you can see we start with the style tag, then there is the style definition div, font size 18 point, which means that wherever the div tag is used, the text would have the font size 18 point. Then in the body tag, I use inline style, div style position absolute, left 700 pixels, top 200 pixels, and I write the words book section. So therefore, according to the values specified for left and top, and keeping the browser window, its edges as reference point for left and top, these words book section, they would be displayed. Then in the second div tag, again position absolute, left 200, top 150. I vary the values for left and top, and consequently the words toys section would be shown according to the values specified for left and top. In the third div tag, position absolute, but left is now 500 and top is 100 pixels. And the words music section, they are therefore displayed at a distance of 500 pixels from the left edge of the browser window and from 100 pixels from the top of the browser window. Then in the fourth div tag, style, again position absolute, left 100 pixels and top 0 pixels, and I enclose the words clothes section. Accordingly, you can see these words, they would appear almost at the top of the browser window because top at 0 pixels. However, they would be displayed at a distance of 100 pixels from the left edge of the browser window. And then the sentence, the regular text, that would appear at its normal place. So we see at the top of the browser window, we must believe in luck, for how else can we explain the success of those we don't like. And then there is the paragraph tag. I use the inline style, but here I keep the value static for the position property. And then left is 200 pixels, top is 30 pixels, and I write the word, this is an example of position styles, and then the body and HTML are closed. The point you should notice here is that because I have kept the value position static, therefore the values I have assigned to left and top in this case, which are 200 pixels and 30 pixels respectively, they would not be implemented. So in other words, we can say that the effect of left and top, that would be nullified because I have kept the value of the position property as static, so our text would remain unaffected. Because of the paragraph tag, after a line break and a line space where the content, this line should have actually appeared, it would appear at that place as it is. Then there is another property, that is the Z index property, which is quite frequently applied in style sheets. And let's have a look at an example in this regard. On the screen, you can see that there is some text and there is an image. In fact, this text is in color red and it appears on top of the image. So the text runs, this text appears on top of the image. You can notice that the words in this text, in this line, the words appears on top of, they are in fact superimposed, they are printed or written on top of this background image. This is because I have applied the Z index property. The Z index property is used where we want to write or print some information, some text along the Z axis or along a third dimension. Let's view the code which has resulted into this page. We start with the HTML tag, then there is the head tag, and I have used here a title tag, style sheet, 3D, positioning, title closed, head closed. You remember that this information contained in the title tag that in fact appears in the blue bar at the top of the browser window, that is as such not a part of our main body. And then there is the style definition. You remember that we give the style definition within the pair of style tags, and then I have used the div tag for the purpose of style definition. Font size 16 point, color red. That means that wherever the div tag is used in the body tag, the text would carry these properties. The text would be displayed in the font size 16 point and with color red. Then I close the style tag, then start the body tag, and in the body tag, in fact, I have used an image tag, source equals image2.gif. I have given the value of the source attribute as name of that image file which I want to appear on my HTML document. And then you can see I use the inline style by using the keyword, the attribute style, and setting its value as Z index. I have kept the Z index property, its value I have kept here 0. Then with the semicolon, I use the position property and I fix its value absolute. And I again then use the words left 95 pixels, top 10 pixels. This in fact indicates that my image, which is image2.gif here, it should be displayed at a distance of 95 pixels from the left edge of the browser, and from the top edge of the browser it should be at a distance of 10 pixels. This is because position is absolute. And notice that I have kept the Z index here as 0. Then I start with a div tag. Again, I use the inline style Z index, and you can notice that I here keep the value of Z index 1. I, in other words, increase the Z index value for this div tag. I increase it vis-a-vis the Z index value I had kept for image tag. Then position, again here absolute, left 10 pixels and top 60 pixels. So because the position is absolute, the text which is appearing in bold, the text runs, this text appears on top of the image. This sentence therefore would be shown at a distance of 10 pixels from the left edge of the browser and at a distance of 60 pixels from the top edge of the browser window. And therefore, it would in fact appear on top of the background image. You should notice here that because I have kept the Z index value 1, in fact I have increased this value from 0, the value which I had kept for the image, the Z index value. Therefore, this information, this piece of text, that would be superimposed along the Z axis on the background of that image. It would be in fact printed on that image because of that. So you can experience that I can vary different values for Z index. I can put the Z index value in the image tag as -3, -5, any value, 5, 7, whatever. And I can then increase the Z index value accordingly in the div tag where I have used the text. So wherever I increase the Z index value in comparison with the value I have used for the image tag, the Z index value, then automatically my text would therefore be displayed on top of that image. In other words, an extra layer along the Z-axis would be created, which would result in the appearance of that text on top of the background image. The point you can keep it in mind is that as a rule, the tag where we keep the Z index value greater, the information contained in that tag would superimpose, would be printed on top. And the tag where we keep the Z index value comparatively less, that information in that tag would therefore be in the background. In fact, at this point, we have seen some useful style sheet properties, and we are now in a position to introduce these different style sheet properties, and we can create different formats, different styles for our web pages using these properties. Next, I want to start our topic, which is JavaScripting. And you should notice this thing, that JavaScripting is quite useful. It is quite popularly applied in relation to our HTML documents. What we do is we intermingle our JavaScripting code in our HTML document, in our HTML code, to create different dynamic web pages. What we do is, as we used the style tag in case of style sheets where we use the embedded type, similarly we use a script tag. There is a special tag, script tag. We use this wherever we want some JavaScript code to be applied to our HTML code. And within the starting script tag and closing script tag, we in fact give JavaScript statements, we use JavaScript functions, properties, etc. JavaScript is mainly used on the client side, and we can get certain very useful functions performed using JavaScripting. Again, the point is that wherever we want our pages to be dynamic, to be interactive, to be responsive to certain acts of the users, then we are playing with the JavaScripting. We can do that using the JavaScripting. What do I mean when I say that we can create dynamic web pages or responsive or interactive web pages? I'll give you an example. Say there is a web form you have developed, and you have created some text boxes in that web form. You have also added a button on which the label is add it, or just the word add. The users are asked to provide some numbers in those two text boxes, and when they click at the button add, if you have embedded the right JavaScript code, what would happen is that both these two numbers, then they would be added up. There would be an addition of these two numbers, and then the result can be displayed with the help of some JavaScript function. So here I can say that I have been able to create a dynamic web page using JavaScript. This page has been created spontaneously for me when the user had added certain numbers in the text boxes, and he clicked on the add button. He got a result. He got an interactive web page. So this is the main concept why we use JavaScripting. We use, again I repeat, JavaScripting mainly on the client side. Then before I take you through different examples of JavaScript, it should be useful if we review some basics as regards the programming. I know that some of you may be quite proficient in the IT side. They may have good knowledge of the programming stuff, but there can at the same time be certain students who have no basics of computer science. So therefore, I have to start from the very basics before I can take you through certain JavaScript examples. So, for example, you need to know what is a variable, what are data types, what are functions, what are objects. These are some basics which you need to know before you can really understand the examples, the coding or JavaScript. So let's start with the definition of a variable. What is a variable? I can show you a slide here. You can see I have used a keyword var, which refers to a variable, and then I have given it a name, a location name that would be called. I stands here for location name. I have given the variable name, in other words I, and I have set its value 3. So 3 here in this example stands for the value at a particular location which is assigned to this variable I. And then you can see the location address. For example, the location address may be 65895. This is the address inside the computer at which the value 3 would be in fact stored against the variable name, location name I. We are not very comfortable in storing our variables against these location addresses because these are the numbers we cannot remember. So therefore, instead we use location names. In other words, we give values to different variables. We assign names to variables, like I assigned a name I to this variable by using the words where I, and I have fixed the value 3. So whenever a user would use this variable, the value 3 stored at a particular location inside the computer would be accessible and can be then utilized. There are certain rules that we should keep in mind while defining variables. Particularly in case of JavaScripting, there are certain restrictions. We should know that whenever we define a variable, the starting letter or character of that variable should be from the range uppercase A to Z, lowercase a to Z, or it can be an underscore sign, or it can be a dollar sign. And thereafter, the remaining characters for that variable name, these characters, they can be picked up from the digit range 0 to 9 along with these alphabets A to Z and underscore sign and the dollar sign, etc. Then we should also know that JavaScripting is case sensitive. If we define a variable in a particular form, if we define a particular variable, say in uppercase or in the lowercase, then we should keep the same case, we should keep the same format for that variable throughout the code where we use that variable, because JavaScripting is case sensitive. So you can have the example where I define a variable money and I use the characters MONEY in lowercase. I should keep the same lowercase characters throughout the code. Another thing that is important as regards JavaScripting is that you do not require to specify the data type of your variables in JavaScripting. In fact, that is not allowed in JavaScripting. You do not need to mention as to what is the data type of your variable. You should have this concept here as what is data type and what are various data types in different tools. Data types are normally attached before the variable. Whenever we define a variable, generally the data types or the data type pertaining to that variable, that should be specified. In case of integer data type, we use the keyword int, or we can also use the keyword integer. And wherever this integer data type is used, the value for the variable, in fact, is a whole number, like 7, 8, 3, etc. Another data type is float. So wherever the value of our variable is in terms of decimal fractions, say 3.2, 5.8, etc., there we keep the data type as float. In case of char data type, the value of our variable runs from within the range of A to Z characters, or we can also pick up any character available on the keyboard, and then we can specify the data type in such case as char. Where we have two or more characters joined, we constitute a string, in fact, and then the data type for such variables has to be specified, given as string. This is the fourth main data type. Boolean is another data type. So wherever the value of our variable is in terms of true or false, we keep the data type as Boolean. So if I define a variable pass, I can define it Boolean pass equal yes or no, whatever value I want to keep. These are the general data types which are used by many tools generally. However, JavaScripting uses different data types. They are namely number, then Boolean, string, null, undefined, and they have their specific connotation. But since, as I mentioned, in case of JavaScripting, we are not allowed to provide or specify the data type of our variable. That is done automatically by the browser. Therefore, I think that would not be very necessary or relevant for us to further debate about these data types, number, string, Boolean, etc., used by the JavaScripting. So after this discussion about variables that can be used in JavaScripting and their rules, let's proceed with another concept, the event handlers. You may have heard, you may have seen keywords like on click, on double click, on mouse over, on select, etc. These are all the examples of event handlers. How do we define an event? An event can be defined as that action which takes place when a user interacts with a web page. And all these keywords which can result into an event, which can allow the taking place of an event, they are called then the event handlers. I give you an example. Say on a web page, I have an image placed and I use an event handler on mouse over, this keyword, on my code, such that I want that when a user brings its mouse on that mouse, then at that time that image should transform. It should change into some other image. So I can say that when I use my mouse and I make this image change, in fact an event has taken place. And the event handler in this case is on mouse over. Using this keyword, in fact, I was able to change the image into a different one. So JavaScripting uses many event handlers. It defines many event handlers. There is a long list. I can anyhow show you some important popular event handlers, as you can see in the slide before you. On click, this would mean that when a user would click a button, at that point in time some event would take place. Then another event handler is on double click, which indicates that when user double clicks a button, at that point some event, some action should occur. On focus is another keyword, another event handler. This refers to the idea that when, say, in a text box, on focus refers to another event handler, which means that when your cursor, first of all, is brought in a text box, at that time, at that moment, some action should occur. On load, which refers to the fact that when you download a web page, that should be a point when some event, some action should occur. Say you want an image at that time to be changed, to be transformed into some other image, then you can use on load event handler in your code for that matter. On submit means that when you click on the button submit, and that should be the triggering point, that should be the point when some action, some event would occur. On select, this event handler is used in case of selection lists. So for example, when a user makes a particular selection, when he selects an option in a selection list, at that juncture, at that point, some event would occur. On blur, this means that when you keep the focus away, say when your cursor was in a text box and you remove your cursor from there, then at that point some event would occur. On change would indicate that if there is a text box and a user makes a change in the text entered in that text box, then that should be a point where something would happen. On mouse down, that would mean that when you press the mouse button and you do not release it, that should be the point when something would happen. On mouse move is used when, say, you have a picture, an image, and you move your mouse within that picture or within a particular region or boundaries, then some action would take place. On mouse out, this indicates that whenever you withdraw your mouse from a particular region, particular area, or say from a picture, then that should be the point when something would happen, some event would take place. There can be a color change, an image change, etc. On mouse over, this would be used when for the first time you take your mouse to a particular region, you point your mouse towards a particular region and you then have some action taking place. So these are some of the common event handlers that we can use in JavaScripting. Remember that mostly we use JavaScripting with the help of script tag, but you will notice that in case of event handlers, you do not need to use this script tag. So there is an input tag for that matter. You know, input tags, they are used in forms. So if in an input tag, I want to use an event handler on click, I can do so. There is no need to add the script tag for that particular purpose alone. It would be quite useful if I show you a practical example that would illustrate how do we change the image using event handlers. So let's have a look at the screen. You can see there's a slide and there are two screenshots displayed on the screen. On the left screenshot, you see there is an image and it has got written on it the word contents. And then on the right side, on the right screenshot, you can see there is a bigger size of image on which the word search is written. This is a separate and independent image called search. And the code that I would show to you would simply explain that how using an event handler, when we point our mouse to this image contents, the image gets transformed, it changes, and we are shown another separate independent image that is search. So let's have a look at the code. You can see we start with the HTML tag as usual. Then there is the body tag. And in this body tag, I have used an image tag. And before I close the body tag, all my attributes and event handlers, they are within this image tag. No other tag apart from that is used. So you see image source equal contents dot gif. And then I have further used some attributes. I have used width attribute, setting its value 170. That means that this image should be of such a size that its width should be 170 pixels. Then height, I have kept 50, which means that the height of this particular image should be 50 pixels. Border 0, I don't want any border to be displayed around this image. Then I have used the name attribute also, and I have kept the value of this name attribute as picture. So when this code would be processed, the first image, the initial image that you would see would be contents.gif with its peculiar dimensions, that is width 170, height 50, etc. So after the attribute name, you see I have used the event handler, that is on mouse over, and I have fixed the value of this event handler on mouse over a JavaScript statement. And you can see this is particular JavaScript syntax. I use the double quotation mark where I use these keywords picture dot source equals, then there is single quotation mark. You must give this single quotation mark, and within this single quotation mark I give the second image name which I want to be displayed on mouse over, and that image is search.gif. Then in case I want this resulting image search.gif to be of different dimensions from the original contents.gif, then I can use the keywords picture.width, and then I can specify my desired values. Say in this case I have used 250 as value for picture.width, and then after semicolon, if I want to change the height also of this resulting image search.gif, I can use picture.height and I can specify it a value. Here I've given it a value 100. That would in fact mean that when the user brings his mouse on this image, original image contents.gif, this image should change into another image search.gif whose width would be 250 pixels and whose height would be 100 pixels. And then you can see I use another event handler, that is on mouse out, and I use the keywords. Again, you see double quotation mark. This is JavaScript statement, so you have to follow the syntax for that. Picture dot source equal, within the single quotation marks I use contents dot gif. This indicates that when the user withdraws the mouse from this image search.gif, then the original image contents.gif should be again appear. When the user withdraws the mouse from the image search.gif, then the original image contents.gif should appear again. And I have now specified some different dimensions for this image. As you can see, picture.width 170 pixels, picture.height 50. That means I want this image contents.gif, which would be subsequently displayed after search.gif, to be of different dimensions from its original dimensions. As you can see, I have used picture.width 170 and picture.height 50. That would mean that the contents.gif, when it would reopen for us, then it would be of the same size as was its original size, width again 170, height again 50. Otherwise, if you do not use here, in case of on mouse out, these keywords picture.width 170, picture.height 50, then in that case, the size of your resulting image contents.gif would be the same as search.gif. And you already noticed that was then 250 width and height was 100 pixels. So in order to change that, to bring it to its again original size, I use picture.width 170, picture.height 50, and that is the syntax for bringing the size for the contents.gif. Then I close the body tag, I close the HTML tag, and you have already seen this result that the two images, contents and search, they would then keep changing. I take my mouse on the image contents, then it's changed to search. So therefore, if I bring my mouse on the image contents, because of on mouse over event handler, the image contents.gif would change into the image search.gif. And when I withdraw my mouse from search.gif, then because of the different event handler on mouse out, the search.gif would again become contents.gif, would change into the original image contents.gif. We can also use these event handlers in relation to anchor tag. So where we want that our resulting image search.gif, it should also become clickable and it should lead us to a third image, then that could happen, and we can see how does that happen. In the slide you see on the left screenshot there is the same image search.gif, and when I would click at this image search.gif, it would open another image which is shown on the right side, the screenshot before you. So let's see the code behind this. In the body tag, you can see I've used the anchor tag, and href attribute I've used keeping its value image2.gif. That is, that image should appear when I click on the image search.gif. Then in this anchor tag now I'm using my event handlers. You see on mouse over, I keep its value using the JavaScript statement picture.source equal then search.gif, and then picture.width 250, picture.height 100. That would mean that when the original file contents.gif would be open for me and I bring my mouse on that file contents.gif, it would transform, it would bring another image that is search.gif of the specific dimensions. And then within the anchor tag I have used on mouse out, and I have kept its value, you can see double quotation mark, the JavaScript statement picture.source equal contents.gif, and picture.width 170, picture.height 50. That would indicate that when a user would withdraw the mouse from the image search.gif, again the image contents.gif would be revealed. Then I have used the image tag image source contents.gif, width 170, height 50, border 0, name picture, and I close the anchor tag, body tag, HTML tag. This image tag source equal contents.gif provides that originally when this code would be processed, the original image initially that would be displayed before the user would be contents.gif. And if you bring your mouse on this contents.gif image, it would transform into search.gif. If you withdraw your mouse, then again contents.gif would appear. But you should notice one thing, that since I have used the anchor tag here, keeping href equal image2.gif, therefore another thing can also happen. That means my image search.gif would be a hyperlink. So therefore, when I click on this image search.gif, I would reach a third image, that is image2.gif, which you saw in the result in the screenshot. You should keep one thing in mind here, that preferably we should keep all these different images at the same place, say in the same folder. So contents.gif, search.gif or image2.gif, they should be ideally at the same place in the same folder. In case they are located in different directories or folders, then in such an eventuality we should specify the full path using which we can access that particular image file. So if my image file contents.gif is in my documents folder, then I should specify c:/my documents, and I should give the full path for that file. So that was about event handlers, and we have seen a practical example using which we can transform the images. Then it would be useful to know the concept objects. All object-oriented programming tools, they use objects. An object is defined as a concept that consists of certain properties and certain functions or methods. So you can say that each object, it has its own peculiar properties, certain keywords called properties, and it has got its certain specific functions. Different tools, they have their own objects. In case of JavaScripting, there are certain predefined objects which comprise certain properties and certain functions or methods. And these objects, most of these objects, they are in fact inbuilt within the programming of the browser. So the browser knows certain properties, certain functions related to certain predefined objects used in JavaScript. I can give you a common life example to illustrate, to explain this concept of objects. Say, if I have to define the concept car, if I have to describe this concept to someone, then obviously the concept car can be defined by telling the properties which are associated with car and the functions which the car performs. So in terms of properties and its functions, the concept car can best be described. You can see in the slide, so the properties of a car, the car can bear its color, say red color, 4 doors, 4 wheels. These are the properties which can define, which can help in defining this concept car. And then the methods or functions, so there can be a start function. This function will require a key that starts the car engine. And then there can be a brake function, which would require that a user would press his foot against a pedal to stop the car completely. So start and brakes, these are the two functions which describe the car, and color, doors, wheels, these are the properties. They help in describing the concept car. Similarly, in case of programming, different objects, different keywords, they are associated with their particular properties and their own specific functions. And using these properties, using functions, then we can bring certain desired effects. Now, let's have a look at an example. On the screen, you can see there is a pop-up box, an alert box, on which it is written, "Thank you for visiting my website." This pop-up box or alert box is generated because I have used JavaScript and I have used its alert function. Alert function is for window object, that is an inbuilt predefined object in JavaScript. The window object whose function is alert. When this keyword, this function alert is used, the browser would immediately know that it has to display a pop-up box, and whatever information I have typed in the parentheses, in the brackets of that function alert, all that information, that string would then be displayed on my pop-up box, as you can see. So let's have a look at the code behind this. We start with the HTML tag, then there is a head tag. I have used the title tag, JavaScript example, title tag closed. And notice that then I use the script tag. Before the body tag, I here use script tag because I am going to apply a JavaScript function. And for that, it is imperative that I use the script tag here. And I use an attribute language equal JavaScript and type text oblique JavaScript. By default, the browser would keep the language as JavaScript, but as a good coder, you can specify this language by using the attribute language equal JavaScript. Then you can see there is the comment tag, and within the comment tag, I have used the JavaScript function, the function of the window object, and this function is alert. I use this keyword alert, which is known to the browser, and within the brackets, I type the words, "Thank you for visiting my website." you should remember this thing, that whenever you want this text to be displayed as it is, this line, thank you for visiting my website, you should always enclose it within the double quotation mark. That would in fact create a string for you, and this string then, as it is then displayed within the alert box. Then I close the comment tag. You can notice that I have put 2 slashes before I close the regular comment tag in HTML. These double slashes, they are used to comment out information in JavaScripting. But since we are using this JavaScript statement, this function alert, within the HTML tag, the script tag, therefore, before closing the comment tag for HTML, I have put these 2 slashes to comment out this information. You should have this notion in mind that why do we use comment tags? So wherever there are certain old browsers which do not support the script tag is a new thing for them, they would tend to type this information, alert, thank you for visiting my website, as it is. They would treat it as a piece of text. So for those old browsers, then we insert this statement within the comment tags. So therefore, because of the comment tag, they would ignore this statement, they would not print it, they would not display it as a piece of text. On the other hand, the modern browsers which support this script tag, they would immediately recognize the script tag, and accordingly they would ignore this comment tag, and then they would implement this JavaScript function, alert, thank you for visiting my website. So after the alert function, then I close the script tag, I close the head tag, body tag is closed, and HTML tag is closed, and you have just seen the result. This code in fact results into a pop-up box, an alert box on your web screen, on your web page, and whatever information you had provided within the double quotation mark in the brackets of the keyword alert, that information would be displayed as it is in that alert box. So there are quite a few more examples that I want to discuss with you in relation to JavaScript. We want to create a calculator, we want to prepare a form wherein registration information can be inserted. So all these different examples we shall inshallah do in our subsequent lectures. For today's lecture, we stop here, we conclude our lecture here, and I wish you all the best. Allah Hafiz.